Moving on in our series of lifetime nutrition, we need to look into the toddler years and then early childhood. So in this video, we're focusing in the range of 2 until about 8 years old, what those individuals need and how to best help them. Let's start off with the toddler years. Now, the toddler years for the developmental stage is considered 2 to 4 years of age. Now, mostly they're either off of breast milk at this point or close to being off of breast milk at this point. Their nutritional demands are still very high. They're looking at about 1,000 to 1,400 calories per day for the 2 to 4 year old range. Now you're saying, well, that's less than an adult. True, but it's high relative to their size. In this age range, from 2 to 4, the limbs, arms, and legs are going to start growing faster than the torso and head would. It helps to create more of a proportional nature to the individual. It looks more like what an adult would look like. Because in that 0 to 2 range, remember, it was the head and torso growing faster. Now it's the arms and legs, limbs growing faster. But now, they're not going to eat pretty much like us as adults. They'll still eat the same food somewhat, but they'll have their own schedules. Adults, 2 to 3 meals a day, and that's pretty much what we can do. But a toddler, you have 3 meals a day, plus several snacks found throughout the day as well. They need to have a more constant intake of nutrients. Now, it's important to make sure those intakes are still nutrient dense and healthy. So the snacks in between the meals, it's great if they're nutrient-dense snacks to help fuel that toddler, keep them going. Because the toddlers, they're burning a ton of energy. They just keep on going. They're constantly moving. They're growing quickly. Everything in their entire body, including their bones, are growing quickly. Which means also vitamin D and calcium are very important here to help support that quick bone growth of all those long bones in the arms, moving down to the hands, the feet, the legs. So you need to make sure you have enough to support bone growth here for healthy bones. So what are we looking at for the macronutrients? They've changed a little bit now in this toddler range. The carbs, they're still 45 to 65%, so about the same. 10 to 20% is your protein intake. The fat is now 25 to 35%, a slight decrease from that 0 to 2 range. But to obtain these macronutrients, the serving sizes of toddlers are about 1/4 the size of an adult's serving size. So if the serving size was 4 ounces for an adult, it's 1 ounce for a toddler. Just to kind of give a rough ballpark where to start. Now, obviously, a 2-year-old is going to eat different amounts than a 4-year-old. So you have to kind of gauge throughout this range. And actually also gauge how active they are. The more active, the more nutrients and more calories are needed. One other way to do this, rule of thumb. For every inch of height, it's about 40 calories. So that means if a toddler is, let's say, 32 inches tall, that'd be roughly about 1,300 calories per day. And I say roughly because, again, that varies by individual, that varies by activity level. There's some give and take there. It's just meant to be a starting point of where to try and see if they need more or need less. So what they eat, though, is now starting to change a little bit. Because what they eat is starting to become based on their taste. When you're saying, hold on, the baby at 1.5 years old just spits everything out. True, there's taste preference, but there's even more of that now. So what they're starting to do is they're realizing that they want to feed themselves. They want to be more independent. They want to have their own take on what food time is. So some things they'll like, some things they won't. But when they don't like something, don't try it next day right away, but week or a month later, try it again, maybe 6 months. Because tastes are constantly changing. Maybe they won't like it the entire 2 years of the toddler years. Or maybe they won't like it to start with. Then all of a sudden, 6 months later, they love it. So tastes are evolving, tastes are changing. So if something's not liked, try it again. But the idea is to keep trying different foods, keep exploring what works and what doesn't. Trying to create a nice, broad, and healthy variety of nutrient-dense foods. Now, in toddlers, unfortunately, there's a problem of toddler obesity is starting to crop up more and more. This usually happens when the foods they're taking in are more empty calories. So foods that have a lot of calories, but not a lot of nutritional benefits. So it's important to make sure that the foods that they're eating and the foods that you're eating are nutrient-dense, healthy foods. The reason I'm saying the foods that you as a parent, for example, might be, or any other adult around a toddler. The toddlers will be looking and seeing what the adults are eating, and they want to eat that. They want to eat that. Eat the same things that mom and dad or uncle this or grandma that is eating. They're starting to see and observe and want the same things that others have. So your diet now is going to start to have an impact on their diets, just from a visual standpoint. The important thing is, though, to try to balance the diet. Make sure the toddlers, even if they're picky eaters, are still getting a balanced, broad diet. Because a lack in certain nutrients, one example being iron, for example, if they don't get enough iron from their diet, that can result in iron deficiency anemia. That can then result in them not having enough oxygen throughout their blood and a whole series of other problems. So it's important to have that broad range to cover all the nutrients that are necessary. So toddlers, constantly move, constantly going, need to get that broad range and expose them to different foods. But we'll continue that into the next area, the next developmental stage is considered childhood, ages 4 until about 8 years old. Now, in the case of this age range, this childhood age range, the growth is going to slow down quite a bit comparative to the first 4 years of development. So in this 4 to 8 age range, they're becoming more independent, more choices. They're really starting to lose those baby teeth at the end of this range. So getting up to that 7, 8-year-old range, those baby teeth are coming out. So a lot of different changes are occurring in the childhood developmental stage. And the reason I mentioned the losing of teeth, as those teeth are being lost, it can have an impact on the nutritional intake of that child. Because if they're missing teeth, or if the teeth are coming in and they're carrying an overbite or an underbite, it can make it harder to eat certain foods. Think about it, if you lose both of the top front teeth, it makes it a little more interesting trying to bite into an apple or a carrot. So certain foods become more problematic to eat while the teeth are wiggly or while the teeth are completely gone. So there might need to be modifications of the diet here to try and make sure that there's coverage for what that's missed. So certain foods can be limited based on how the teeth are in the patterns, how many are lost, how many are in different arrangements, what's going on. Now, throughout this age range, 4 to 8 years old again, you're looking at about 1,200 calories all the way up to 2,000 calories. It's quite a large range. Because from 4 to 8 years old, it's quite a range in size for individuals also. Plus mix in the amount of activity they have, are they playing sports, what are they doing? So that age range can have a huge range of caloric intake. Now, speaking of athletics or sports, it's encouraged to get children out and playing or physical activity at least an hour a day. The idea is to keep them moving, keep the bones developing, keep the muscles developing, help their bodies develop a proper athletic ability. Now, the idea when I say athletic ability means they're just growing muscles, they're growing bones. Doesn't mean they have to be some star athletes. No, it doesn't make a difference. Just getting them moving, walking or riding a bike or just playing toss the ball, chasing someone around. Just physically moving can help to increase the calories needed, but also helps with healthy bones, healthy muscles, and just overall their entire body be more healthy. But let's go back to those teeth for 1 second here. If the teeth are being lost and being replaced, fluoride becomes very important. The reason fluoride as a micronutrient is becoming so important is because the enamel and the actual structure of your teeth need fluoride to become strong and healthy. So it's kind of important to make sure children, as they're losing their teeth and replacing them, have adequate amounts of fluoride. Now, if you're in the US in a municipal water supply, no problem, the water's fluorinated, should be plenty of water and plenty of fluoride. But if you're on a non-municipal water source, let's say you have a well on your property, then fluoride could be a concern. That would be something to talk to a dentist about. The dentist might then suggest that you have a fluoride gel or a fluoride rinse to help make sure enough fluoride is on the teeth for strong enamel and strong teeth. Because you want to make sure the teeth are coming in strong so there's not problems down the line as they get older and older. Now, children and eating independently, that's a good thing because they're getting older, they're making their own choices. But it's a tricky situation to make sure they're making healthy choices in their diets. So there are a lot of different factors that play into how children of this age, so 4 to 8 years old, start to make their own choices on food. First of all, they're obviously developing their own taste. Do they like the taste or not? Is the texture something they like? Do they like the smell of that food? So there's different things that play into if a child likes it or doesn't like it. They can look at what the adults are eating. Hey, mom or dad's eating that. Grandma's eating that. Aunt's eating that. Whoever, somebody's eating something and I want to eat that. Or why do I have to eat this if they're eating that? So the choices and questions start to come up. That all influences what they want to eat. They're influenced by their friends. What do their friends eat? Maybe they're over at a friend's house playing and they eat this. Well, I want to eat that too. Or so-and-so had that at lunch. So friends will have a huge impact on what they're seeing, what they want to eat. The media has an impact. Advertisements will have an impact. Those advertisements for those snacks or the heavily salted this or the sugary that, or you can go on and on. Those advertisements aren't always for the healthy foods, unfortunately. So trying to influence their choices and decision making there. The idea is, though, if the adults in their life can model a healthy, nutritional lifestyle, it's a lot easier for the children to accept and model the same lifestyle. They see the individual is eating healthy, they want to eat healthy too. So it kind of becomes second nature as they grow up, seeing a healthy lifestyle and then eating that. It's normal. It's what they see and expect. And this can help to prevent childhood obesity. Because unfortunately, childhood obesity is on the rise. It's increasing. That can be prevented with proper nutrition of the micro and macronutrients. If anything's missing or potentially missing, a pediatrician or doctor might recommend, hey, why don't you take a multivitamin just to make sure everything's covered. But then this also becomes complicated in about 20% of the children in the US. Because that's the number, about 20%, that are in homes that are going to be food insecure. What that means is these homes don't always have the ability to have a balanced diet. They might have not enough food at times. They might not have any food at times. So financially, it might be limiting of what they can purchase, they can order. And a lot of times the non-healthy, the calorie-dense but nutrient-short foods are cheaper than the nutrient-dense foods that are healthier. So there are different programs that are out, at least in the US. One's going to be the National School Lunch Program. It's meant to try and combat that by giving those children at least one healthy meal at school a day. Now, some schools and some funding programs allow for lunch and breakfast to be supplied, giving them 2 healthy meals a day. But it's one of these things where it all depends on what the background is and what the household is enduring. But the goal is to try and reduce childhood obesity and give every child the ability to grow strong and healthy. So toddlers 2 to 4, children 4 to 8, plenty of nutrition. The trick is getting balanced nutrition that's nutrient dense, healthy, and covering all their caloric needs. Until the next video.